Champions League and trying to maintain that cash flow outside of the fact that Joe Louis is not going to dump, tens of millions of dollars into player acquisition is something that he's having to balance. And I can see his frustration. I can understand his frustration, especially as he gets prepared to move into, what is it going to be, his fifth year next year into the club. There's been reports out there that Spurs will have about $120 million to spend on center mids and center backs, and we probably still need to find a really good, reliable backup for Harry. And we also have to figure out a way to reconstruct the contracts of our current star players to get them to stay. I'm fully on board with Pochettino, but it's a saying that I need to be able to compete with the cities in the United. So it's a fine balancing act of also not disrupting the chemistry of what it is you've already started to create. You can bring in tons of players, and having that chemistry and having the manager be the focal point of that. You look at Chelsea and you see Conte, and that is falling apart, and it shows. And this is the twice in 4 years that we watched Chelsea completely capitulate in the league after winning the league. So
that's been their strategy, hasn't it, Ken? Chelsea's, they just
right and
yo-yo, isn't it? Yeah.
And is that okay? Is that for their fans? Like, fuck it, I don't care. I'll take a Premier League title and then suck the next year. I really don't care.
Would you not? Would you not take 2 Premier League titles in the last 4 years and suck 2 of the other years? Would that not have made you happy? I'd be thrilled with 2 Premier League titles. I'm going to just be honest about that.
I mean, I'll take it a step further. One of my sons said to me yesterday, would you rather be like Leicester and win the Premier League and then drop back into sort of a bit of a mediocrity, or continue to be this team that is almost there but not quite? Well, and it's quite a quandary. I mean, at this point, fellas, I never expected to. Well, I was never concerned, I should say, that we were going to start losing stars, because I felt that most of the squad had bought into the project, they bought into Pochettino, and that we were pretty set and we're heading in the right direction. But the fact that Kyle Walker left last summer, and he's had more money and he's already won the Premier League and another domestic trophy, and then the fact that we can't seem to get over the hump in one-off semi-finals, it's actually given me a bit of concern looking forward. I obviously hope I'm wrong, but that's just something that's playing on my mind now. And it might even be playing on some of the players' minds now. We'll have to wait and see, obviously.
Yeah, and it's the conservative nature, right, Chairs? You and I had a little bit of a discussion yesterday. It's like, how long do you keep buying into the project? And, Pochettino has a 5-year plan. I'm fully on board with what we're doing. I accept the fact that there are going to be some heartbreak situations, and look, it's football. Anything can happen on any given match and on any given weekend. At what point do you say, you know what, we're getting ready to open a new stadium, all things pointing to the fact that we're going to be in Champions League next year? Do we really need to go out there and make a big splash, make a statement, get the fan base on board? You got 62,000 seats to fill. Do you need to bring in some marquee players outside of the marquee players that you already have?
Well, if next year is the end of the 5-year project, we've said this before, get into the stadium, get Champions League football, which obviously the doubts are starting to creep into our minds there. And yeah, we do need a marquee signing. So if he's got 120 million quid to spend, you could argue that 40 million or however you want to slice and dice that to get that marquee signing in, and preferably someone who's got a proven track record of winning and leading. Because I think, and again, don't want to allude to too many of the subject matter of these questions we have, but that's what I think we're lacking, that veteran leadership that has won, that can push us over the hump. Because let's face it, this is a team of mostly young players that don't know what lifting silverware is about, and I think that's what we need. So it's going to be a critical off-season, very short, because you've got a World Cup, and now we've got this summer tour. Pochettino's got his work cut out from. It's a very short window, because I believe it closes when the season starts. Is that correct? Yeah. And then we've got that pivotal season. I think a lot rests on the performance of next year. And to say we have to move on up. Obviously this is a step backwards this season because we're going to end up in probably fourth. So we've got to get back to what we were doing last season, as well as winning something.
Bale is coming home, Chess.
What?
Gareth Bale is coming home.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. And that begs the question, right, Tim? Who is that person? We've been linked to De Ligt from Ajax, 18-year-old center back, and we're kind of going back to this whole youth building thing again. And as a fan, you want to get to the point where you say, you know what, fuck that. Chelsea's about to not even maybe, they're not going to make Champions League. They'll be in Europa League, and who gives a crap? Go get N'Golo Kante. Give them enough money to where they can't say no, and get somebody who's going to, completely command that defensive midfield, especially should Dembele jettison off to China. Is Wanyama really the answer? He's not had a great season as in comparison to his previous. Who is that player? Who is that marquee signing? Is it another attacking midfielder? Is it a center mid that would just absolutely blow our doors off? Is it a Gareth Bale? Who's that player for you, Tim?
I don't know if that player is out there for us to get. Just being honest, I don't. You gotta. It's going back to the whole question we talked about with why isn't Toby being signed? People say it's the wage structure. I don't think we're going to be able to go out and sign that type of player. Remember when we were talking earlier I guess at the beginning of the season, like, oh, we signed Llorente and he's got that experience. He can be that one to bring leadership to the locker room. Now he's been sent away from the club and they won't even say why. I have no clue why he's gone. They just say it's a personal matter and we're not getting into it. We have no clue why he's gone. He's been gone for weeks now. This is like the second week he's been away from the club. He's not there anymore. But we had talked about that guy being the one to bring in leadership because he's been on those types of squads that have won things, both domestic and international. But I don't think we are going to sign that player. And if you think we're going to go out and spend the type of transfer fee, one, to bring in that player and then put him on double the wages of anybody else, I think you're kidding yourself because it's not going to happen. We're going to go more for the younger players like we've done. And it could be big money on young players. It could be Malcolm, the guy we've been linked with from Bordeaux. It could be Ryan Sessegnon. It could be John Fiete Arp. These young players who are being ranked as the top young players right now. I think that's really where we're looking at. I do not see us going to get an established 27-year-old in their prime. I just don't see it happening. And I know that's what people want. I just don't see it happening.
Well, that doesn't apply to leadership, does it?
No, and I don't know how we're going to address that. I mean, I think it needs to come from within. I don't know. Maybe something will happen in the World Cup and it'll give people that leadership. Maybe Eriksen brings Denmark to the quarterfinals, something that's not expected. I have no clue. But I don't see us being able to go out and sign somebody to bring in that leadership. I don't know who would be out. One, I just don't know who would be out there that we can get.
Yeah,
I think Vass and I already have visions of Eric Dyer getting the armband and lifting us to World Cup glory, right, Vass? Every 4 years it comes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you talk about leadership. You'd expect that Dyer now is gradually becoming that man in our team, and even. I don't see any of our players just bollocking anyone. You got Jan Vertonghen, you got Eric Dyer, you got Harry Kane, who you would look at as being leaders perhaps, but they just still seem so quiet. And yesterday when the game was sort of going away from us, I didn't see too much to sort of G up the troops or anything like that, which was a little bit disappointing. And going on to what Tim was saying, I think he's right. I mean, it's going to be difficult to buy perhaps the type of leader that we want, experienced player. Number one, you're going to be looking in something for the high price range, as it were. And then whoever that person is, you're talking about bringing them in and him being a guaranteed starter.
Well, I also think, real quick, let me just jump in. I think we're only looking at one position where you can bring in that player. It's a center defensive mid, because he's not replacing Eriksen or Dele We got Lucas, who's going to have a full offseason. Lamella's son. I don't think that player is going to be an attacking midfielder. Kane's not getting off the pitch. You got Vertonghen and Sanchez moving forward next season. So I really think you're only looking at, I guess, fullback or central defensive mid. That's your limited options on where you're going to bring in that leader who's going to get the consistent time and be a starter.
Yeah, but on the flip side, Tim, you're looking at the guys we got now, and it's possibly raising questions in as far as, have these guys sort of reached the level now? Do we move on from one or two of these guys? So it's a scary thought, but, It could be that that's where we're at now. Maybe the team needs to evolve again. Maybe Poch has brought his team full circle now, and something has to give to go on a new circle.
Yeah, and it also, I don't know that it necessarily needs to come from a center defensive mid standpoint or even the midfield itself. I mean, Harry does very well playing outside the box and almost in a false nine position a little at times. Could we bring in another forward attacking player, slide Harry back a little bit, change the formation up a little bit, and get somebody with the pedigree who knows how to win, knows both international and domestic success, and would thrive in that system, that has an engine to burn, that backtracks well, that is on the pitch for 97 minutes a match, and oh goodness, the name just escaped me. So,
well, let's just bring in Messi. I think that'll solve it all.
No, I'm not talking Messi. I'm talking Cavani is who I'm thinking of. So it's someone who's 32 years old. PSG.
No, wouldn't have him.
You wouldn't have him.
But that's the same thing that we're dealing with. You bring in Llorente, who's on the wrong side of 30. I mean, I don't want to bring in this player, spend all that money on someone who's on the wrong side of 30. I don't want that player just for 1 year.
Yeah, I get that. Would you bring in Suarez?
No, these guys wouldn't come, Ken.
But you're talking
these guys wouldn't come.
But even if they would come, I don't think you're looking at that guy for a leader.
He's
a good individual player,
not
but he's not gonna bring the team up in situations like yesterday. You're not gonna see him running around to players and talking about, come on, let's get going. We're still in this. He's not going to do that. And he's an all-star, yes, but he's not a leader that's going to give us that leadership quality that we're talking about that we need.
Anyway, that's
and in other news,
yeah,
let's move on, lads. We'll
go
around in circles on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's next, Chairs? I mean,
let's do some triv. We haven't done that for a couple of weeks. Ken's back.
Got to defend my lead.
I got
completely loaded on opiates. This ought to be fun.
Yeah, that's fun. These are questions we carried over from last week. I made sure that they're still relevant based on recent events, and so we will kick it off. You know the rules. Say your name. We don't have mumbling Sam to upset the apple cart. So here we go with round 20, and this is all about this campaign. So questions about this season. Question 1 is a two-party question. Who was our opponent for the largest Wembley attendance in A, the Premier League? Go.
Ken. Arsenal.
You are correct. And in all cup competitions?
Tim.
Bass.
No, I think there was a Tim real quick.
There was a Tim first. In all cup competitions, I'm going to go Real Madrid.
Nope, it was yesterday.
Wow.
No second bite.
Yeah, no second bite. That's cool with me.
Last week, if I'd asked the question on the pod, it was Juve, but the United game pipped it by 1,000. So
nice.
But I'm trying to remember if the Arsenal one was bigger than both. Can't remember. Question number 2, going the opposite direction. Where was our lowest away attendance in A, the Premier League? Go.
Ken.
Tim.
Ken.
Bournemouth.
Tim.
Bournemouth.
Tim.
And if that question ever comes up again, it's probably always going to be Bournemouth because they have such a small
stadium.
Oh, I was going to say Brighton. I guess there's a bigger allocation for Brighton.
30,000 at Brighton.
Really?
And B, the cup competitions.
Ken.
So, Ken?
What the fuck was that team? Rochdale.
Yes, bloody hell. You should take drugs more often.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
You lot be chatting in the pub, haven't you?
No,
Hey.
no.
Study high, take the test high, get high scores.
Conspiracy theory.
No.
Number,
Carry on.
Question number 3 for 2